the Arabian Racehorse Podcast with Debbie Burt, Gary Cape
and Stephen Molyneux.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Arabian Racing Podcast. I'm joined this week by Stephen Molyneux.
Hi there, Debbie. How are you?
Yeah, all good. And we hope Gary Capewell, who is currently stuck in traffic, will join us later. Anyway, to start the programme off, we will be looking at, first of all, we'll be looking at the impressive win by Abez in the UAE President's Cup UK Arabian Derby at Doncaster. And obviously, he was the form pick, but he still did it in very impressive fashion, considering that he was out the back for the first part of the race. What did you make of it, Stephen?
Yeah, it was about as impressive a Group 1 win that you're likely to see, whilst at the same time making a bit of a dog's dinner of it, if we're being brutally honest. As you say, the early stages of the race didn't exactly run all that smoothly. He was a little bit slowly away and just needed the odd cajoling along from Olivier Pellier out the back to almost keep himself interested, really, which kind of harks back to what Gary said in the preview, that he felt the horse was the sort of horse that was never really going to be massively impressive, and that kind of how the race materialised. But I mean, there was also a brief moment when Orion shot clear early in the straight, but as we know from Doncaster, it can be a long way home. And I think Olivier Pellier will probably tell you that he always had all bases covered, and there was an air of inevitability about it, probably from around about 2 or 3 furlongs out when Abez had loomed up. And as you say, in the end, very impressive 4.5 lengths, which might just mask his superiority to some degree. But I thought Arian ran perfectly well in second in pulling a long way clear of the remainder, which, as we rather predicted, did struggle against a French pair. But he's a promising horse still, and almost will perhaps learn a bit from having notched that victory at Doncaster, where the crowds were there, of course, for the first time, that he's unlikely to have seen too much of back in France. So all in all, very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And to echo what you just said there, although the horse actually has already had, 6 starts in France, after the race, Olivier did say he still needs the experience. He's still very green. As to what happens for him in the future, he'll go to the Qatar Arabian World Cup in October. I asked Thomas Wolsey whether he thought that he would head out to Qatar for their derby, which is at the end of December. And he was adamant that wouldn't be the case. He would go to the Emir's Sword. So that shows you the regard in which they hold him, that he'd be perfectly capable of running in their derby. But obviously they think that he's ready to start mixing it with the bigger, older horses in what is their Premier Group 1 race over there.
Yeah, and he might just need a bit more time to learn, as you say. So it will be quite a tough European season. So one more run in France, give him a bit of a break, and then come back more towards the end of the Qatar season. He's shown his worth already in France, and that he's not far off being the best of his generation. And it's the logical step, isn't it, to head over to Qatar. So yeah, I'm sure the victory at Doncaster will have done him plenty of good. He probably didn't advance his rating much, if any, based on the limitations of the opposition. Probably only the second horse, Orion, improved on the day, but that's not to say that he won't do in future, and his current rating of 112 is already pretty high and well worthy of a Group 1. So it was the right result all round, really. And taking nothing away from the home challenge, we knew they'd struggle. Al-Ajab fared best of those in finishing third, and to some regard he was a little way clear of the rest as well, and bouncing back to the promise, really, that he'd showed in winning at Chelmsford Maiden. Obviously, it was pretty tough for him in a Group 3 at Haydock next time. So just again, we talk about the season and how it's still a little bit truncated and not very regimented for these younger horses. And that kind of bears out in Al-Ajab, in that since winning a maiden, he's had tough enough races, but hopefully that will stand him in good stead should we see him next year.
Yes, and further down the field, a quick mention for Altar, which was the first Arabian runner in a group race for an Irish syndicate from Blackrock Racing. I think, we always knew it was going to be a big ask, but they all apparently they all had a grand day out, as they say, and hopefully that will encourage them back in the future.
Yeah, I finished fifth, and was it £1,000 I pick up prize money, something like that. So at least they got some money. So hopefully that will pay a few training fees and encourage them to come back again next year.
Yeah, and we've just been joined by Gary Capewell. Hi, Gary.
Hello. The road's been their usual self.
No problem. And so, Gary, we've just been talking about the Derby. We're going to move on now to the race we had yesterday at Wolverhampton. Obviously, I believe you were in Newmarket yesterday, so you weren't there to commentate. But it was a nice win from the 3-year-old colt AJS Hajjaj. And he certainly looks like he should be able to build on that.
Yeah, particularly because he still looks quite green. He still looks babyish, quite raw still, I think, as well. I mean, obviously, plans probably change when the horse missed the break a little bit, but even still, I mean, I know I'm not sure how quick they actually went. They went a fair gallop, but not an overly strong gallop. And to come from the back, having had to go 3 wide, circling the whole field. Okay, yes, he was, easily the least exposed in the lineup. He's nicely bred. But to utilize that turn of foot the way that he did, I mean, on his debut, he looked as though the experience was badly needed. But he got the hang of things late on, and he is still learning, isn't he? But it was a taking effort how he went through the race and got the job done, I thought, quite comfortably in the end. I wasn't expecting him turning for home, or at least halfway, to end up in the position that he did. So, only his second start against some seasoned handicappers, full credit to the horse, I thought.
Yeah, and the horses further down, obviously that was a good run from Balkis on her first start, newly leased and moving stables to James Owen. Yeah,
much better effort from her. She looked the most likely winner, I thought, turning for home. She travelled really well. She wasn't too far away. Got a nice run through, in fairness. I believe was very well backed on course as well. So connections were feeling, expecting a decent run, and the expression bumping into one, I think it very much applies here. I mean, you've got some sort of solid enough yardsticks further back in the field. Paramount Angel, who finished in third, looking as though again that the runs this season have brought him along. Altabari, who's a regular in this type of grade, and you can sort of rate the race around him, really. I suppose Stephen probably will. Almar Buba keeping on. She missed the break, didn't help. Kept on quite nicely. I think she wants further. And so it's not beaten too far. Better from him as well. So. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're in the 0 to 75 grade, but there was promise in behind from one or two of the other runners.
And Stephen?
Yeah, it'll pretty much echo everything Gary said. It was, I suppose, the most impressive aspect of the performance was kind of as they turned for home. So what's that, 2.5 furlongs out at Wolverhampton, and just how quickly the horse made up his ground. Look, it's never ideal, is it, having to rate them after just the one run, going off 77. Obviously, he's been a late maturer. You can sort of tell that, and when he made his debut, there were very few options for him subsequently. So I suppose at least he's had the chance to progress and improve with experience, which is what Wolverhampton will do to him on yesterday. So yeah, products in an ordinary year, he wouldn't have been running in such a race. He'd have won his maiden next time and perhaps be rated a little bit higher, which he obviously will be after that victory yesterday. But no, he was impressive. As Gary said, the pace probably wasn't overly strong. I mean, we know Stormtrooper usually goes off a little bit quicker than he probably did, and the fact Altabari was able to keep tabs on him probably suggested that they were going the sort of pace that they wanted. But they got racing a fair way out, and that played into the hands of AJS Hajjaj, who, by the sounds of it, will head to a Group 1 next, which makes it even more of a mockery that it was to run off 77 here.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, as you say, it's been a difficult season, and of course, you can only rate them on what you've seen, and those two horses that, I mean, Aldana has and Mamayez, it's very hard for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it obviously isn't just when he is rated higher than the two horses that finished ahead of him, Aldana and Almabuba. So it wasn't as if he was thrown in based on what he'd achieved on that day. But obviously he was going to improve a lot, and he will improve a lot for that run again in handicap company. I suppose at the start of the year, or start of last year, when we sort of came round to rating horses after the one run, you almost hope that they can still be found out for a lack of experience in a handicap, and that it maybe takes them 1 or 2 runs to sort of find their feet experience-wise. But some of them are just going to be far too good. It's kind of the way it is. You see it in Hong Kong that debutantes run off 55 and can be far too good. So that's kind of the angle we are with AJS Hajjaj, and thankfully it's not borne fruit too often this season, but there have been 1 or 2 examples, and hopefully we can revert to a bit more type next year and give me a bit more of a leg to stand on.
Yeah, of course. And as far as I'm aware, the plan is to go back to rating after 2 races if everything works out next year. And look, he's a really nicely bred horse, and it was always the plan, I think, to go to that race, to the 3-year-old Group 1 at Saint-Cloud on the 1st of October. But of course, he had to win that race. So you can't judge them entirely on pedigree. They've got to actually go and do it on the track, and he did it quite nicely. I think one interesting point, which leads us on to some more racing today, is he's a half brother to Rawa. She won the Prix Nefta twice, a Group 2 in France, but actually she also won a fillies race at Bro Park for Francois Rowe and her connections. And of course, Gary, you've got a runner there today in Al Kaiser,
which I'm just about to watch now. I've got that live on my screen as we speak. I see on the local blogs, he's actually second or third favourite. I think they keep changing quite quickly, but he's about to run out there. It doesn't look the strongest of group races, but we said that about some of the other group races he's run in and not managed to get his head in front. Back on the winner at Wolverhampton yesterday, the owner, obviously, first runners that I can recall. This is the first horse I can recall him having in the UK. Certainly Arabian, anyway. I know they have a few thoroughbreds.
Yeah, he's got thoroughbreds, but this is his first Arabian runner here for us.
Yeah, I think he has a few horses with Mark Johnson. So the fact that he's, hopefully, because I think he has quite a few horses in Qatar, hopefully this could be a sign of, a few more horses being sent over here for next season. Fingers crossed, anyway. Have
a look now at the Emirates Breeders Handicap, which will be our final race of the season. It's a 0 to 60 over 1.5 miles back at Wolverhampton again. Gary, if we go to you, and then you can let us know if your race is off in Sweden.
Yeah, they're down at the start there. I mean, we've got a full field of 12, haven't we? A few that have been probably a little bit disappointing this season, and a few that go into the race, on the back of just 2 or 1 run in a few cases. I thought, looking through them, I noticed you've tipped them as well. I thought this looked a gilt edge opportunity for Kayak, really, who obviously, has got previous course and distance form, wasn't beaten far at Lingfield earlier on in the year when he probably should have won. I know he's got some younger horses that are making their handicap babies against him, but if he can run to the same sort of level that he ran here last year, I think it probably should be good enough to win this. I mean, Al Nawa looks to, I mean, the blinker's gone for the first time, so that's an interesting angle. And the step up in trip, I think, will definitely help, because he hasn't looked the quickest, but the dam of his dam Nar, she stayed well, but she had a bit of a quirk about her from her racing that I can remember. Al Gadir, obviously, just it's a step down in grade. Pretty much has been, not long ago was gelded. Bred to be better than the current handicap mark, let's put it that way. Falcon de Roche again coming back down in grade to the grade, that he won at earlier on in the season. And you've got a few others that have run well. They've thrown in the Osgood run this year, the likes of Al Jawaha, who we know likes the artificial surfaces, Bin Ari, and indeed Samawat. So, they're all fairly exposed, those. But yeah, I thought this looked, a gilt edge opportunity for Kayak to finally get his head trying to get his head in front, to be perfectly honest. He's got a fairly decent draw as well in stall 4, albeit, it's a mile and a half anyway, isn't it? But this looks a gilt edge opportunity for him. I think conditions, these are his perfect conditions. Over this trip, he's in the right grade in a race that, okay, there are a few potential lurkers, but looks winnable. I think they'll be disappointed if he's not up to winning it, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, and where are we now at Bro Park, Gary?
Loading
Okay.
at Bro Park. I don't know which horse is which here, apart from mine. It's the Alcalidia horse that's giving some problems behind the stalls. I was surprised that we didn't see sort of more horses from France go over for it, because it's fair enough money, and it's always going to look quite a winnable contest, I think, when you're taking on some of the local horses out there. For all there are some decent ones, there are no superstars really, I don't think.
Yeah, and the IRB have been doing quite a big job helping to promote the race not just that race, but the whole meeting in the UK. And if anyone's read the interview I did with Max Pimlott in the current edition of my magazine, they were putting together a package to go from Newmarket, and they didn't mind whether it was a thoroughbred or Arabian that went on the box. They were going to do it for a good fee. So I mean, it's good, I think, that people have taken advantage of it, and it's good for Bro Park. I mean, I think, I know Gary's been there. I don't think you've been there, have you, Stephen? It's a lovely track, and they deserve to get more interest, really, and good racing there. And a quick word from you, Stephen, about tomorrow's race, our last of the season.
Well, as Gary said, there's a few that could still be a lot better than their marks, and obviously the easier grade of race may enable the likes of Al Anwar and Al Ghadir, Belle Angelique to show as much. So Carla Sunbird's another one you can throw into that mix as well. Al Anwar's the only 3-year-old in the race. I mean, his last run was pretty much a write-off, wasn't it? He stumbled very badly on the first bend, and I think it was Sam Hitchcock who rode him, and he was pretty lucky to actually stay on board. So again, in a kind of an ordinary year, that the horse would have likely have had to have run in a maiden again, because he's been so well beaten on both his starts so far. But even after even before the stumble, he was kind of off the bridle and beginning to struggle at a very early stage. But the step up in trip should enable him to sort of lay up in contention for a bit longer. Al Ghadir is obviously in an easier race, having dropped from a 0 to 75 last time, and actually beat more than beat him. So that's a promising sign from that Doncaster run, and that probably makes him the one to beat when you've got the likes of Al Tabari and Balkis, who weren't a million miles ahead of him that day. And he in turn was good 14 lengths clear of Falcon de Rock, who will, as Gary said, appreciate the easing grade. Bin Al Ree, we've said all along, is probably better on turf, although again, this is his rightful grade. And the two down the bottom, Samawat, Gurko, Tadnell, have both threatened to run better races so far this season, and they could bounce back. The interesting element as well to throw in there is that pretty much all of these have been off the track at least a month, just to the vagaries of the available races. So you just wonder, maybe will one or two of these are they going to? Well, they can't say they're going to need the run because there isn't any other options afterwards. But it could just be a case of the fittest surviving, particularly at Wolverhampton, where it might ride a bit slower.
And how are we doing, Gary? Are they off yet?
Yeah, but my picture had just disappeared rather annoyingly. I think you need to open an account now, which I can't do, obviously.
Oh, well, never mind. You'll just have to sweat it out then.
Yeah, great. So.
Okay, well, look, obviously we're looking forward to our last race of the season. We will be doing a season review, possibly not next week. It depends on timing for everybody, and Pierce, who puts this all together, is actually going away on holiday, so we may have to have a break longer than I expect. But we'll look forward to obviously reviewing this race and a good review of the season. So thank you very much, Stephen.
No problem. We'll see you in a week or so.
And to Gary.
Thank you. Look forward to speaking soon.